Some more troubling news here. Immigrant arrests at courthouses signal new tactic in Trump's deportation push. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers have been instructed to arrest people immediately after a judge has ordered them to be deported or after prosecutors move to drop their cases. Masked officers descended on courthouses across the country this week and arrested stunned immigrants showing up for scheduled immigration hearings as part of a new directive from federal officials aimed at dramatically accelerating deportations. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, ICE, in Arizona, Virginia, and more than 20 other states have been instructed to arrest people immediately after a judge has ordered them to be deported or after prosecutors move to drop their cases, according to internal documents issued this month and reviewed by the Washington Post. The Trump administration is planning to then place immigrants whose cases are dismissed and who have been in the country less than 2 years into a fast-track removal process that does not involve a hearing before a judge. The coordinated operation is the government's latest attempt to quickly remove people from the country, even if officials have to bypass the courts, as concern grows in the White House that President Donald Trump won't be able to fulfill his campaign promise to remove millions of undocumented immigrants from the United States. So, in addition to being an abuse of power, this is also very unwise since, as we've gone over several times on the show, the reason why you generally don't send ICE officers into courthouses to arrest people at their immigration appointments is because that will create a chilling effect and cause immigrants to skip their immigration appointments and disappear into the country. So in the long run, in fact, not I think in the not so long run, depending on how quickly the word gets out, this is going to result in fewer deportations, not more, because it's going to make it a lot harder to track people down. But that is just the latest in the ICE deportation news wire. And I thought this was a great piece of sound. So here is Bill Burr going off about ICE and the deportations, making some points that we've made several times on the show. This is truly a great peasant mind rant. That is exactly what this is here. So this was really well done. This is his podcast, so it's audio with captions. We got about 3 minutes of it. Let's take a listen.
Interesting race. And then sadly, I saw these clips of ICE going in and just fucking ripping these people out of their homes, and mothers and grandmothers and children screaming, no warrant. If fellow U.S. citizens are like, what are you doing? They like intimidate them, arrest them and shit. This is like Gestapo type of stuff. And it just blows my mind that there's a certain ugly segment of the American population that's enjoying watching these families getting ripped out of their homes. And you somehow think that America is going to be better if this is done. Like, so what? So they took those people out. They're taking these brown people out that are living week to week. And somehow you feel like if they get them out of the country, your boss who's not paying you a living wage will suddenly start paying you a living wage.
I've literally said the exact same thing multiple times.
Right.
Before the election, I said, you think you're going to start getting paid more when the immigrants are taken out? Do you really think that's going to happen?
What would be a great thing is everybody read up on the history of these that have run these companies. They have not wanted to pay Americans a living wage ever. They've never wanted to pay us a living wage. And the only reason why they do is because there's laws. And the only reason why there is laws is because people died during protests to start unions. And the fucking psychos that run these companies didn't want to pay a living wage. And eventually they took their factories out of the country so they could go back to not paying a living wage in the form of sweatshop labor.
Preach.
And now they're eventually working their way towards this. The same billionaires that didn't want to pay in the 1800s, way back to the feudal system, they've never wanted to pay you. They don't want to pay you. And they just keep blaming people that don't look like you, that don't have any money or any sort of control over your life. And my people keep believing it. It's unfucking believable. Immigrants are not the reason why you can't make your rent. You can't make your rent because the guy that fucking employs you is not paying you enough money.
Exactly.
He's not keeping up, or she's not keeping up with the rate of inflation. The fucking thing is there's enough money, there's enough food, there's enough shelter for everybody. But these super rich want too much for themselves. And they're heartless. They don't give a And when you start to tell them, hey, you're not paying us enough money, they go, oh, look at those fucking brown people over there. If we could just get them to stop jumping over a wall or get them out of their houses. If we could tear apart their families without a warrant, then I would somehow magically start paying you enough money where you could live comfortably and have health insurance. Unreal.
Unreal indeed. Perfectly said. I mean, if that is not lifted from one of your peasant mind monologues, I don't know what would be. I mean, this is exactly what we've been saying.
Look, man,
all along.
I did meet him very briefly at Glengarry Glen Ross. I said most of that shit to him.
Yeah, exactly.
He bit it off me.
That was lifted from Russell Dobular. No, I mean, that is perfectly said. It's as obvious as that. It should be as obvious as that. And that speaks exactly, like we said, to the peasant mind. And, you really have to be beaten down and brainwashed to take issue with any of that. What do you think? Do you really believe that your boss would like to pay you more, but he can't because there's immigrants here? What kind of sense does that make? I mean, just think about that for 10 seconds. Just sit and contemplate that thought for a few seconds. Do you really believe that? Or are you telling yourself you believe that? So much of this is psychology. So much of it is people feel powerless to improve their own situation. And so in order to convince themselves that they don't have it as bad as they know somewhere inside them they really do, they're going to say, well, if it wasn't for this person or this group, and that person or that group, in order for this to psychologically make sense in your head, has to be lower on the economic ladder than you, because you have to have some power over them. That's part of making you feel as though your life isn't as bad as it is. In other words, you have to rationalize, why is it that the person with power over you isn't treating you better? You have to come up with an answer to that question that doesn't drive you insane. And so this is part of that. But I said all during campaign season, don't think, I mean, I've said this countless times, don't think that when immigrants start disappearing, your standard of living is going to go up. It is not going to go up.
Of course not.
The bosses, the management class, they will find a way to fuck you. They have found ways to fuck you for decades upon centuries, millennia. I mean, this is core. He talked about feudalism. This even predates modern capitalism. I mean, this goes back thousands of years. What do you think? The only thing between you and a better wage is an immigrant? It's absurd. It's always been absurd. And you know what? The Trump administration isn't even making that point. I haven't heard a word about how immigrants' deportations are going to increase your wages. I've heard a lot about how scary they are, about how violent they are, and how for your own safety they have to get rid of them. I haven't heard them. I haven't heard anybody in the administration even talk about an economic payoff to these deportations. And guess what? They're not even deporting as many people as Joe Biden did. They're making a big show of it because that's what fascists do, who want to build a police state and want to manufacture consent for a police state. But the numbers don't even add up to what Joe Biden was doing, much less Obama. Obama's probably outpaced him by a long ways so far. So that's what this is about. That's always been what this is about. And, we got a nice little show here, but we don't have the reach that Bill Burr has. And so it was so awesome to hear a guy with that kind of reach give essentially a version of our shtick. I mean, that is the peasant mind speech in a nutshell.
Yeah. The psychology behind a lot of the people that he's addressing is really very much like what you would see in a dog that is in a position of helplessness. They might attack each other, right? Because they can't attack the thing that's tormenting them. They'll start going after each other. That's very much working class mindset in my experience. That was what I saw growing up. When I would see all those just ridiculous grand operas that would spiral so quickly out of control about points of honor and respect. That's what I always thought, man. Like, you're angry at the people above you, but you can't get to them. So
Right.
you hit each other.
Exactly.
You fight
Yes.
each other.
100%. Yep.
That's what a lot of that is. You can't imagine going after Elon Musk. So instead of talking that way or thinking that way, instead, and this is part of how, like, you break a horse, right? That's your master now. You make that your master. You worship it because you're scared of it, because it has control over you. So instead of confronting that and trying to think about fighting it, that's too scary. And the final part of the mental trap is to give you a scapegoat so that you can feel powerful relative to somebody and not notice that you've basically been turned into a peasant. Their ideal is slavery. Read the Grapes of Wrath. Look at what the situation was for labor before labor rose up and scared them. They were scared of communism then. They were scared they're going to have some kind of a communist uprising. What did FDR say? The capitalists shouldn't hate me because I'm saving capitalism. He recognized you don't do something, they're going to. That was why they did it. What were the circumstances? They not only didn't want to pay you, they wanted to pay you in company script so that you would only spend your money at the company store. You know the song, 16 tons. What do you get, right? Yep. Sold my soul to the company store. That's what that's about. You don't even make any money. Right. We're going back to that world now, right? You get everything with Amazon. You get everything on credit. You're not actually making any money. You're not actually saving anything. You're owning nothing, but you're not happy.
Hey, thanks for watching our video. We're currently raising money to produce our documentary film on the Uhuru movement. Go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents to chip in.
Every dollar you give goes towards the project. We do not take any kind of salary on these. We mostly live on Gatorade when we're on the road, so even solid food is iffy, just enough to get by. But we do not take any pay for this. Every dollar actually goes into what we need to shoot the project. The Uhuru movement is a subject that really deserves more exposure. Everybody heard about it through the court case, and that was an important thing to elevate. But they've done incredible community work demonstrating a different way that is socialist and not dependent on the government at the same time, which a lot of people don't even realize that still exists in the tradition of the Black Panther food and education programs. And to show there is such a strong community like that with such strong leadership is really important, particularly at this historical moment.
Yeah, so we're really excited about doing the project, but we need your help. So go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents to chip in. Thanks very much for your support.
Please clap.